My question is to the Prime Minister. Will the Prime Minister please update the House on progress of the Morrison government's plan to chart Australia's path back from the COVID-19 pandemic, and how this plan will ensure that we can live with the virus and emerge stronger on the other side?
The Prime Minister has the call.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I thank the member for Curtin for her question. Mr Speaker, the news in New South Wales today, for all of us who are from New South Wales, but not just New South Wales, I'm sure the member for Curtin as well, it's heavy news. 356 cases to date. Mr Speaker, there are 297 in hospital. There are 60 in ICU in New South Wales, including 28 on ventilators. There have been 30 deaths this year in New South Wales, and that includes 3 in the past 24 hours. Mr Speaker, the national plan that we have championed sets our pathway out of this, and every Australian has a role to play in every single phase of that plan. And right now, Mr Speaker, we are in that suppression phase that seeks to minimise as best as we possibly can in this Delta virus, this Delta strain, which has completely changed the response, Mr Speaker, that is needed to address COVID. Delta has changed everything, Mr Speaker. Australians understand that. So, Mr Speaker, we are acting to support, whether it's in New South Wales or elsewhere, in this suppression phase, bringing forward the doses, hundreds of thousands, whether they be in New South Wales, Queensland or Victoria, Mr Speaker. Moderna has now, of course, had the TGA approval, and that was announced by the Health Minister and Professor Skerritt, Mr Speaker, and those first doses have come in September. The mental health supports, Mr Speaker, that we are providing, not just in New South Wales but also in Victoria, over $17 million of urgent mental health support in New South Wales, done with the New South Wales government, over $12.5 million directly from the federal government, similar to what we did in Victoria during their long lockdown last year. Mr Speaker, COVID Assist has 581 ADF deployed in New South Wales right now, and the economic supports continue to flow through the COVID Disaster Assistance Payment, and I commend those at Services Australia, and also those working in Services New South Wales who are delivering the business payments which we are sharing the cost of. So, Mr Speaker, for those who are affected by those lockdowns, particularly in New South Wales, the challenge is to stay at home and to get vaccinated. 234,899 doses yesterday. 7 days, 1.36 million doses in 7 days. That is the mark of a program, Mr Speaker, that has been turned around. The mark of the program that has had its challenges for all the reasons we have gone on to, but, Mr Speaker, that the government has addressed and has turned around and is ensuring that those dosage rates, Mr Speaker, are hitting the levels that are necessary to get this job done. 14 million doses we are now closing in on, Mr Speaker, this week. 45% of the population had their first dose. Mr Speaker, we need to enter Phase B strong, and we need to not, Mr Speaker, squander the great gains that have made by Australians as we go into Phase B, Mr Speaker. We must not give up in the fight against Delta. This government will never do that, and we will continue to support Australians as we take them through and out of this crisis.